The ABCs of Courage 2.
Patricia Lord, 59, remembers the first time he showed up at her door. "He was such a nice man," she said. "At first, I didn't realize how deep his problem was, but it soon became clear he didn't even know the alphabet." So, twice a week, they started to work together. "He was so grateful," Mrs. Lord said. "I do this for free, but he kept saying that if I ever needed any plumbing done, even if it was an emergency in the middle of the night, he would do it for nothing." She taught him the alphabet. She taught him how to print letters. She taught him the first words other than his own name that he had ever known how to read or write. "We work with reading cards," she said. "He picks out words that look interesting to him, and I'll teach him." One of the words he wanted to learn, for instance, was chocolate. He was fascinated by it because it was longer than most of the other words on the cards. So we learned it. There are books scattered all over Mrs. Lord's home. The Fate of the Earth by Jonathan Schell. Findings by Leonard Bernstein. Schindler's List by Thomas Keneally. "I tried to explain to him about the pleasures of reading," she said. "It's something he's never known. I've always gotten so much information and so much joy from reading. But when I try to explain that to him, it's almost beyond what he can imagine. When I was young, I had a friend, and we'd go sit together in the park and just read for hours and talk about what we were reading. The idea of something like that seems to intrigue him. I tell him that one of these days he'll be able to read a book," Mrs. Lord said. "That's far off in the future, though. I have a second-grade spelling puzzle book, and even that's way too advanced for him right now. But he's making progress. There's a list of about 40 words that he knows now. When a lesson goes well, he is definitely elated. He'll smile at the end of the session, and he'll get more talkative than usual, and he'll just seem lighter. I can tell that he's feeling good about it." In the time since he started studying with Mrs. Lord, the man has found a new job. His employers do not know that he cannot read. He is deathly afraid that they will find out and that he will be fired again. "I never liked to hear anyone called a dummy," he said. "Even when I was a kid, I didn't like it. In fact, I once beat up another kid for calling a boy a dummy." Let's face it, though. When you work construction, the others would be embarrassed to work with you if they knew you couldn't read, wouldn't they? If they found out about me, I think they'd make it hard on me. Some people get their kicks like that. He said it was losing the other job that convinced him he had to learn how to read. That and something else. "I've got a little granddaughter," he said. "I never want her to come up to me and say, 'Grandpa, read this,' and I can't do it. I already went through life not being able to read to my own children. I want to be able to read to my granddaughter." He said he was proud of how far he had come in his life without knowing how to read. "I can take a blueprint and figure out how a whole building works," he said. I built my own house. I think that's a pretty good accomplishment for a man who can't read. That and going this far in my trade. Still, he has always known how large the gap in his life was. All my life I've wanted so badly to be able to read something, he said. I've had to pretend all my life. When I would go into a restaurant with people from the job, I would hold the menu up and pretend to be reading it. But I didn't understand a word. I'd always ask the waitress what the specials were, and when she'd say them, I'd choose one of them. Or I'd order something that I knew every restaurant had.